or I know we're going to take some franchisees on that may a little bit into this realize, oh, well, maybe this is not a good fit, or maybe, maybe I made a mistake, or maybe Kaminskiy isn't everything it was made out to be, whatever the case is. Dude, David, we're the only one that I know of. We're offering a 90-day money-back guarantee on a franchise. Like, have you ever heard of anyone offering a 90-day money-back guarantee on a franchise? Dude, that's how confident I am in our model.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Today is a fantastic show that's going to be geared around a self-made professional. Now, there's some of you out there that are in business right now. You're grinding out. You're trying to build that business. And then there's some of you out there who have thought about making that leap and getting into business on your own. But you're going to hear a fantastic, motivating story of a guy who, yes, he had $70 in the bank and his bills paid for 30 days. He started his own business, and today he's not only an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, but he's a real estate developer. He owns a franchise called Kaminskiy Care and Repair, which we're going to talk about here and how he got that going. He's got a commercial construction business. He's got a real estate business. This guy is doing it all, and he's a hustler, and I love his story. We connected. We immediately hit it off because we have a lot of similarities in the way that we started, and I'm really excited about getting into his story today. So sit back, enjoy this one, and I want to welcome Sergei Kaminskiy to the show. Sergei, thanks for being here on Unfinished Business.
Hey, David, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here. Great to be here.
All right, so let's dive in. There's a lot of professionals out there who are building a business right now. And listen, it is not an easy feat to have a successful business. But I want you to take us back to when you first got into business yourself and talk about that story.
Absolutely, man. I was just a 19-year-old kid and working for a framing contractor making $17 an hour. And I remember my wife called me at the time and saying, hey, I don't think we're going to make rent or pay the electricity bill. We have literally $70 in the bank account.
Man.
And I remember coming home and I'm thinking, what are we going to do? How are we going to make ends meet? You know, for me, we just recently got married, and I remember in our one-bedroom apartment, we didn't have a computer, we didn't have a printer, we didn't have anything, David. Literally, there was nothing there. But what we did have, it was actually a pretty nice apartment complex that we rented because I always like nice things. But it was a nice apartment complex. And they had this club room. They had this club room that was shared between like all the people that lived there. And they had several computers and they had one printer. And I remember I'm going to go into that club room. I'm going to design some flyers. And literally, I opened up Microsoft Word on one of the computers and I printed out like 25 flyers. And I basically just said, San Diego County handyman, put little palm trees around it. And I listed all the services that we could do. We went to Target, we bought some string, and we came back to our apartment. We wrapped them real nice with a bow. And we did, like I said, like 20, 25 of them. We put them in plastic bags. And I remember, dude, it was like yesterday. She's driving down the street and I'm running door to door and I'm putting these flyers by each door. And then I'm like, God, I wish somebody calls me. And literally the next day, I had a guy call me and said, hey, I need some work done at one of the rental units that I own. And so I finished my, framing job. And then I went and I did this one. It was like rescreening a door and I was just, repairing a cabinet and a couple minor things. But I made like $350 in like a few hours. And then I said, man, I want to do this again. And so what we would do is we started waking up like 3, 4 in the morning on the weekends. And we would just go flood neighborhoods with these flyers and then just wait for the phone to ring. So that was our start, man. That was the beginning. Later, I would hire like 2 vans full of guys, man, 2 vans and like 20 guys. And I would circle areas on maps and I would just tell them, flood this area and flood that area. But yeah, man, that was the beginning of it, man.
And essentially what you developed was a home service repair business, essentially, right? So at that point, you start building some business, you start getting a few clients. Did you always have in your mind that you wanted to scale this thing up? How was the process? Like, Talk to me about the timeline of when you were started and you were doing the work to then when you started hiring people and you started really growing. When did you know like you were growing this business into really something big?
Man, so I have a great story. There was a light bulb moment for me. I remember it was one of my first jobs. It was doing a patio cover. I had to take the patio cover, demolish it, and then buy new wood, and then obviously get the wood painted and put the new patio cover on. It was one of my first kind of decent sized jobs. And I went and I hired this guy from Home Depot, man. This guy, they're not, I don't think he was legal in the States, but I literally picked him up and I said, hey, I need your help. And I took him to this job site. I rolled out all the wood for him. I rolled out the plastic. And I told him, I said, hey, I'd like for you to primer this and I'd like for you to paint this. He barely spoke English, so it was a lot of sign language. But basically, I left him to do the job. And then I called my wife. I said, hey, listen, let's go have breakfast and let's go to the San Diego Zoo and have it just, enjoy the day. Yeah. And I remember we were sitting at McDonald's. I'm eating a McDonald's breakfast sandwich. And I get this thought and a light bulb. And I tell my wife and I say, babe, imagine, I said, somebody's working. We're making money. But yet you and I are here enjoying a nice breakfast. And we're going to go and have a great day at the zoo. And it was just like one of those moments where I said, I want to multiply this and I want to 10x this, 100x this, where, I can have my time back. I can manage, I can do what I need to do, but have a business and leverage, someone else's kind of like labor. So for me, that was the light bulb moment, man, where I said, I want to grow this thing bigger. Right. So it was just, it was a really, really good feeling to be able to do that. So yeah, man, fast forward from that moment, forward 3 years, we started getting into kitchen bath remodeling. And now we're 20 years in business, multi-award winning company, rated best home design remodeling, best home construction company by many different, sources. And now we have Kaminskiy Design and Remodeling, Kaminskiy Commercial Construction, and Kaminskiy Care Repair, which is a handyman business that we're scaling nationally.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute. So for advice of anybody who is trying to scale up a business, right? They're trying to scale it up. What would you recommend? Can you give some advice on what is the best way or maybe some tips on how to scale up a business to get it to grow? Where, again, you're working on the business versus working in the business. So it's been coming up a lot.
Yes. So learning to delegate is a very important skill. And, I remember that when I was starting the business, again, going back to that, the first beginning stages of it, I called up my superintendent. That was still when I was working for the company. And I called him up and I said, hey, Jim, I said, can we meet? And he goes, absolutely. He was a great guy. He really liked me. I was one of the younger kids on the job. And I went into his office. I said, Jim, I'm so excited. I said, I'm going to be opening up my own business, my handyman business. I brought my flyer with me. And he looked at me and he smiled and he goes, Sergei, I'm happy for you, man. And I wish you success. But he says, listen, work will come, but good help is hard to find. And back then I was just like, dude, give me the work, man. I was a 19-year-old hungry kid.
I'll take anything.
I'll find the labor. I'll find whatever I got to do. But the longer I'm in business, the more his words actually ring true is, the work will come, but good help is hard to find. So for us, it's like we do the best we can to obviously compensate our employees well, to provide good employment packages. And that comes with scale. You cannot scale by doing something yourself, right? Your question was, how do you scale a business?
Yes.
There are guys that have been laying tile, as an example, for 40 years. Their knees are going out and they, cannot continue. And when you talk to them about growth, those guys say, well, look, I'm the guy who does the job and nobody can do it better than I can. And when you look at that, you're like, well, you probably do a great job and you're probably very good at it. But there are guys that could do a very good tile job, right? I mean, there's companies that employ thousands of tile installers. So to me, it's being able to delegate, finding strengths in people and kind of just developing those. And then also getting rid of the bad ones, man. Sometimes people come along, they're not the right fit, and you just got to move on.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's sometimes it's not the ones that you let go that hurt you. It's the ones that you keep in business. So you really got to be conscious of that. So Actually, I'm going to bounce a little all over, but you were telling me you're from Siberia. You moved over here when you were at 7, you said?
7 years old. That's right.
Yeah.
I was born with the polar bears, man.
You're freezing, dude.
I would have like 3 pairs of mittens and 3 pairs of everything on. It was like, it's all about layering when you're in that kind of temperature, man.
Dude, I think of Siberia, when I was growing up, the movie Rocky 3 was like, maybe it was Rocky 4. Maybe Rocky 4 was very popular. I just remember him in Siberia with the stuff on it, running through the snow, grinding it out. Love that, man. That's what I think of you, man. That's why I think you're just such a superstar, because I could just see you like grinding it out in Siberia, getting over here and just kicking major ass, right, bro?
Take anything, dude. I'll work 24 hours a day as long as I have.
I love it. I love it. Were your parents entrepreneurs? Like, was this always instilled in you? Do you always feel like you had that kind of fire burning in you, or like I said, were your parents entrepreneurs that kind of laid some groundwork for you? How did that work ethic that you have really, carry over and rear its head?
It's an interesting dynamic, man, David. I truly believe that I was born with a gift of entrepreneurship and just the hustle and kind of that grind. But like any other gift, if you don't develop it, it's going to go to waste, right? So you have to develop whatever gift that you have. But I remember being a kid and, going around my apartment complex and putting out flyers to wash cars, man. And then, and then selling pixie sticks, dude. We would go to the grocery outlet. I would go with my mom, and I would buy like this jumbo pack of pixie sticks, and then I would come home, subdivide them into like packs of 5, 10, 15, 20, and then I would sell them at 5 cents a pop. And then, like, literally, man, the principal called me into the office one day, and she goes, "Sergei, you cannot sell these candies anymore because your wrappers are all over the school," right? Because all these kids, I'd be with my backpack just like during recess, just hustling and selling candy. So, it's just, I think it's a natural gift, but also looking at my dad and seeing him be in business and do business, he did very well for himself in Russia. He got a PhD in geology. He was running a very respected organization there. So for him to come to the States, it was restarting. Like, he made a sacrifice for the family because he had to learn the language. He had to learn everything from scratch. But he gave us that foundation to get started, right? So, and when he came here, he started doing business on a small scale. I seen him, he had a import-export business, and I would go to the office with him. I would hear him on the phone, and I saw kind of the lifestyle that it was giving him, the more than anything, the freedom. Like, he wasn't like having to clock in and clock out daily.
Yeah.
Love that. So, going back to early days, I remember when the teachers were asking, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, a lot of the students were like, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a pilot and this and that. I would say, I want to be in business. And to me, I didn't know what kind of business it was going to be. Right. So it's just one of those things where I always knew I want to do something for myself. And I am a serial entrepreneur, love business. I could talk about business from sunrise to sunset, and I only get more energized. And I tell my kids, man, just to kind of show you how much of an entrepreneur I am, I tell my kids, I don't care what you do, but as long as you do it for yourself, and it's like, I just see what entrepreneurship is. I feel like you think a little bit different. You're not inside this box, right?
Yes.
And so it's a different mindset, man. It's a different mindset.
Total different mindset. And I'll say, going back to your father, just coming over is almost being an entrepreneur himself. I heard this once on a podcast I had. But all the moving parts and things to do it the right way to come over is just, that's like building a business in itself. So
if you think about what is business is such an act of faith, and like, you see something in your head, nothing is guaranteed, right? And you have to kind of try to execute that vision and get people aligned with that vision. Coming to a different countries, there's so many similarities. Where are you going? What are you doing? How are you going to do it? And it's like, you just have to make that huge leap of faith and actually do it. And then leaving something so good behind where he's comfortable and he has everything set. I saw him doing like television interviews when I was a kid back there, so like, he was doing all right. So like, for him to leave everything and just go to a whole different country, ground zero, is a huge step of entrepreneurship, in my opinion. Absolutely.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. So listen, for me, I'm just going to answer this before I ask you the question, but what I love about business is that, listen, you control the pace every day. Okay.
Right.
Like you said, I was never been wired for myself. I mean, I've been in business since I was 24 years old for myself as well. And I love the fact that every day is a new day. You control the pace. There's some days where you can go and drive that thing. And then there's other days where you're going to have to focus on some other things, maybe that don't move the needle as much, but ultimately you're still putting an effort towards growing business. What do you love about business? I mean, you said some things earlier, but what is it that gets you so excited about waking up each day, starting another business? We're going to get more here in a minute into how you evolve through your businesses, and then getting into Kaminskiy Care and Repair. But what is it that excites you every day, man?
Just being in business excites me every day. And there's so many facets of being in business that gets me excited. I mean, it's the organizational aspect of it. It's having a vision in front of you, seeing what it could be, and just driving every day towards that vision. I mean, it's like you look at guys, I mean, some of these guys that inspire me, I mean, but look at Apple, right?
Yeah.
And this guy, Tim, I mean, he would come in and he would say, listen, I see a touchscreen phone, and this is how it should work. And these developers, these engineers, they're like, well, I don't think we could do that, sir. I mean, I think it has to have buttons. And he would say, no, it has to be touchscreen. This is what I'm seeing. And he would drive all the people around him crazy, right? So for me, like, he saw something in his head and he would always just pursue that. And for me, it's the same thing. Like, I see especially like this care and repair business, the handyman business that we're doing. My passion right now is thinking, how many people can we make successful around the world with this business? And how many people are out there that they're entrepreneurs, man. They're so close. They want to be in business, but they don't have that confidence. They don't have the brand. They don't have the knowledge on how to step out and actually start doing something for themselves. And what I personally love about this handyman business is that, for me, it's a segue. It's not necessarily like, this is it. This is what you're going to retire off of this only one business. You possibly could if you grew it enough, but it's a segue, because that's exactly what happened in my life. The business mentor that I met was a guy that I put a flyer on his door personally. And then he called me to do work. And then he really liked me, and he ended up being my business mentor.
Yeah, that's so great.
Huge commercial job that I got was because we went and did a small remodel for someone, and the guy happened to manage a huge commercial facility, and we did over $25 million just for that one customer alone. So it's like, to me, you have these kind of like opportunities that get presented to you with, so that's what excites me, man. That's what excites me. It's taking people along for the ride with me, right? And seeing them succeed, man. I was on the phone just a couple of days ago with our Portland location. David, this guy, man, amazing guy, great family. He works as a medical repair equipment guy, right? And he's making decent money. In the last year, because we opened up a location in Portland, while having a full-time job, this guy did just under $400,000 with our location.
Wow, fantastic.
And I'm talking to him, and he's like, and he's telling me, he goes, Sergei, yeah, we just started this kitchen remodel, almost like a $50,000 kitchen. Dude, I almost started tearing up, because I was like, that's amazing, man. Like, here you are. I mean, he's never been in business. He didn't know how to hire. He didn't know how to fire. He didn't know how to do marketing. He doesn't know anything a year ago. And fast forward to today, he's already making stuff happen. He already have 4 employees, and he's doing all of this. And he tells me, he goes, Sergei, without your model, I could never do what I'm doing. Without you guys in my corner, I could never do what I'm doing. So that's what excites me.
That's fantastic. It's one of those things too. I do. The thing that fulfilled me the most when I had my franchise, because at one time at the most, I think we had about 15 franchises at the most at my time. But the thing that I loved doing the most was coaching, whether it was sales and training coaching or whether it was business coaching for the franchisees. But yes. I agree with you, man. It's the strategy, the execution, and really elevating professionals to, like you're talking about this franchisee you have. And watching them elevate their business was so fulfilling to me. And that's why I love doing the consulting work now, is because I get to come in and look outside in versus inside out, and seeing the businesses that I work with to be able to impact them and elevate them. I think that really does. When you understand the nuts and bolts of business and you can help people build strong businesses or build successful businesses and make an impact, it really is fulfilling. I can't stress it enough. I'm so aligned with you.
Yeah, and it's such a huge asset that we have, because nobody could take it away from us, right?
Right.
Once you understand it, once you know it, once you've been through the trenches and you've been through those battles and you know exactly how to navigate all those waters. I started realizing how much I know after I got together and I was doing this kind of reunion with some of my childhood friends, and then we were just driving in the car. I had this big van and we just all were sitting there and we started talking about business, and some of them started asking or saying these really elementary things, like when it came to business, because these guys, they have jobs, they're working for someone, right? But if you're someone who's been in business for 20 years or whatever the case is, however many years, and you live and breathe it, I mean, you're going to become an expert at so many different things, and you mature, and we have so much to bring to the table. So like this is like what you're saying, like you're mentoring people right now with coaching and business and sales. That's amazing. It's so fulfilling to watch people grow and to see them develop. And that's part of what we do with our franchisees too. But it's a little bit different because we all actually implement the marketing strategies and the brand. But then a huge part of it is that mentorship. It's like I was telling this Portland location, I was like, dude, okay, great. You did what you did last year. I said, set your mind higher now. Like, you got to break at least $1 million. Let's go. Start thinking like that, because, and now I can see him. It's like, he's like, okay, can I think that big? I'm like, put your mind there, right? You got to start doing it, and you got to start thinking it. And I'm giving him like ways and opportunities how to get there. So, man, it's a huge part of it.
It's a huge part of it, man. So, all right. So now I want to get back to your story a little bit, okay? Because you started your own handyman business, then you elevated that into a construction business, and now most recently you've taken the handyman business, the Kaminskiy Care and Repair, and now you're giving back. You're franchising it. You're giving opportunities to people who maybe were entrepreneurs, or what was the word you used? Wantrepreneur. I've never heard that term, and I love it. So I'm gonna take that at some point here. So, but I'll give you full credit, of course. But a wantrepreneur, and it's true. There's a lot of professionals out there who want to make the leap, but they just don't know where to start. So, talk to me about how you transitioned into Kaminskiy Care and Repair and the elevation and what you're doing with this business right now.
It's super exciting, man. And here's what we bring to the table. First, we have to address, like, what is the problem, right? What is the problem with a typical blue-collar entrepreneur business? The problem is they're overpaying for leads, right? So if you're a typical blue-collar entrepreneur, you're paying anywhere between $100 to $200 per lead by using lead generation services such as Angie's List, Thumbtack, or Yelp, right? Those are the three. They're the few out of different, many different ones. The problem with those services is they'll sell you a lead, and then they'll also sell that same lead to 3, 4, or 5 different service providers, creating an extremely competitive environment.
Yeah.
Me to the next point, they undercharge for their services. That's a huge problem. If you take the national average, a handyman, a blue-collar entrepreneur is charging between $40 and $75 per hour. That's not enough to run a successful business. That you're not going to be able to succeed when you're undercharging for your service. Number 3, they don't have the administrative support or estimation support. So they're missing sales opportunities. How many times have you called a service just to get their voicemail, and they call you back 3 days later? It's like, oh yeah,
totally.
And you're like, no, I already, dude, I did this 3 days ago. I already fixed it, right? So how many jobs do they miss out on? How many customers do they miss out on because they don't have the administrative support? So with the Kaminskiy Care and Repair model, we're solving all of those issues. We're able to reduce the CAC, which is customer acquisition cost, to a bare minimum. We're averaging $50 per lead instead of $100 to $150.
It's great.
We're also sending them qualified customers. And because we know how to target the right customer. We're not a discount brand. Like, we are a premium handyman business. Like, We're not your typical handyman where you like, hey, here's $20 to install a ceiling fan. No,
Right,
we're a
right.
premium brand, and we charge premium rates. Our average hourly rate, instead of 40 to 75, is $133 per hour per technician. So for us, the customer, though, they get value. Why did this customer get value? Because we have an average of 10 years of experience for every technician that walks into your home. We do background checks, criminal driving record background checks. We make sure that the technicians are uniformed and that they're driving a marked vehicle. And they have to be at least a 4-star rated technician. So it has to be a 4 or 5-star rated technician. They're trained in customer service. They know exactly the work they're doing, how they're going to do it, and we stand behind the product, right? So we're solving that issue. So now instead of any blue-collar entrepreneur that says, hey, I want to own a Kaminskiy Care Repair franchise, great, let's join the system. We're going to help you with getting the leads at a much lower cost. We're going to teach you how to make more money per hour, not only for your time, but also when you hire employees, when you hire a helper, he's making an average of 133, and the other handyman that's going to be working for you is making 133. So now you're actually able to make a profit, right? And then in addition to that, you're leveraging the Kaminskiy brand, right? Which is a very respectable name in the home improvement industry. So yes, man, I mean, we're solving so many issues. Then the last point is we offer centralized administrative support. So every call that comes in goes to our centralized administrative office. Okay. And they say, okay, great. What area are you calling from? Boom. They route the zip code. They identify which franchisee that is. And then they ping them right on their phone. They say, hey, we got a customer live on the line. Can you take it? If this franchisee says, no, I'm in the middle of a job, I'm talking to another customer, I can't take it right now, we don't want to let that customer get off the line. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer that call to one of our in-house estimating managers. And then that estimating manager is going to be able to sell that job on the franchisee's behalf. And they get paid commission only. So they get a small percentage of the overall job profit. So everyone wins, right? Because the customer gets the service they were calling from. Then we have the franchisee who doesn't lose the business, and the estimating manager who just made a good living, right? So everyone wins in that scenario.
Listen, there's so much that we got to clip back on that, but I want you to understand something and what Sergei is talking about here. Okay. Here's how he did this. And in my eyes, and you may have thought about it differently, but this is just me outside in. You talked about the customer experience first, right?
Yes.
You talked about the uniform, the background checks, the driving record, the certified, I think you said 4 years or 10 years. I'm sorry.
10 years, at least
10 years. 10 years experience.
4 rated technicians, right?
Sergei talked here about putting the customer experience first. And I can't stress that enough. There's a lot of companies out there who like, hey, we got a great product, we got a great idea, and they try to push this thing out there, but they don't focus with the customer experience and then work backwards. And that's what you've done here, which I love in the process. The second thing you did on the customer experience side is your franchisee's customer experience, right? Because they're essentially a customer of yours as a franchise, they're business partners, so to speak. But realistically, you're making sure and ensuring that, listen, business is hard to run. Okay. If you want to go start a business on your own, I love the franchise model. I grew up in the franchise model. I started a franchise model. And the reason why I like it so much is because if you want to go out and start a business on your own, you're going to have to figure out your logo, your marketing. You're going to set up your LLC. You're going to get the, you may have to get some funding, you may not have to get some funding. They're going to be sweat equity. You're going to run into a lot of detours along the way. That will, you might figure it out. You're going to figure it out. Some people are going to figure it out. There's others that are going to fail. But realistically, what this does for you is getting with a guy, especially like Sergei, who's figured it out from the customer experience back, is it's going to speed up your runway process. It's going to save you money in the mistakes and the errors. Right. And I can't stress it enough to work with someone like you said, who's been there and done it and can really lay out a framework. It's very impressive because he's making it sound easy, everybody. Okay. I'm going to tell you this, and maybe it was for you. He makes it sound easy, but I can tell you that there was a lot of blood, sweat and tears, thought process, hours built behind this that started when you were 19 years old.
It wasn't easy, man. It was a grind, man. It was a grind, and it required every fiber in my body to get this thing to where it is right now. Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is like I didn't have someone that I can call in this business and get advice from. And it was very difficult because I had to, go and get the bumps and the bruises and everything else. And thank God I was fortunate. I didn't have any colossal mistakes that put me under. And as we're taking on franchisees, we have so much value that we bring to the table because we have 20 years of marketing strategy, systems, processes, the brand recognition, and all of those different things that we bring to the table. And we're showing proven results of what we're actually able to accomplish. We have 2 locations on our item 19 that are showing real numbers and real profit, real dollars. Money talks. Right. So for me, it's like if we're able to be that confident to display all of that for everyone to see, that means we have something pretty special. Right.
Absolutely.
And so for us right now, it's truly about making as many success stories across the nation as possible. Right. And we're looking for the right people. We're very careful about who we award a franchise to.
Yeah.
We want to make sure the person, wants to be in business first and foremost, or has thought about being in business. We want to make sure that they're coachable and that they can take on a system and learn from us and follow the ingredients, right? Those are all very important things. If they have business knowledge or experience in the past, it's a plus, but it's not a requirement. Yeah. It's not a requirement. And if they have construction knowledge, it's a plus, but it's not a requirement. They can go into this. 2 of our locations right now, one of them was the car dealer, had no construction experience. He did over $1 million in business in the second year, over 2,000 paying customers. And the other one with no construction experience, no business knowledge, was able to break close to 400,000 while having a full-time job, which is very impressive.
Yeah. It's funny, man. I'll tell you, you talk about the hard moments, and just one story that sticks out in my mind. I think, like I said earlier, at our height, the franchise I had in the marketing and advertising space, I think we had about 15 franchises. And you talk about people who want to be coachable. And I would say there was like 11 of them that were really doing it the way it should be done. And then there were another 4 that either thought they could do it better. They were always, trying to figure out a different way, challenging. And what I found myself doing in that business at a certain time was putting 80% of my effort towards these 4 people who just weren't buying in and always trying to come up with a new idea and strategy, versus spending the time with the other 11 that were actually doing it the way that it should be done. And when I shifted that gear in my mindset, and I was very intentional about putting my efforts towards those 11 versus the 4 that just, I wanted to yell in my ear about what this was wrong or that was wrong.
Yeah.
That business did more in the next year. We toppled the revenue that we did the previous year with 15 franchises based on I think we ended up with 12 at that point. We had less franchises and we did almost 40% more revenue as an organization. Wow. So it just shows you though, right? Coachable, being if you're going to get into business, whether you have a mentor, whether you get into a franchise, you've got to be open to the idea of being coachable. And that's what Sergei has done going into these years, and even myself. And again, I'm not trying to impress anybody, but just impress upon them that I was always open to bringing in people to help me to become stronger, because I didn't know everything. You don't know everything. So
to your point of what you're saying, like, you're going to take some franchisees on, or I know we're going to take some franchisees on that may a little bit into this realize, oh, well, maybe this is not a good fit, or maybe, maybe I made a mistake, or maybe Kaminskiy isn't everything it was made out to be, whatever the case is. Dude, David, we're the only one that I know of. We're offering a 90-day money-back guarantee on a franchise.
Wow.
Like, have you ever heard of anyone offering a 90-day money-back guarantee on a franchise? Dude, that's how confident I am in our model. Like, we're going to literally, if someone comes aboard, we award you a franchise. They go through our training program. They go through everything that we have. And if they say, look, this is not for me, I want my franchise fee back, we're going to write them a check for the entire franchise fee.
Wow.
Right? So for me, it's like, listen, if you don't want to be a part of this, I'm going to graciously let you go and go. Good luck to you. And I wish the best for you, but don't slow us down. If you're here, let's follow the systems. Let's follow the process. Get with the program, and let's make this thing happen.
Yeah, that's unheard of, man. Unheard of.
So for me, I'm like, listen, you don't want to be a part of it. Bye-bye. Oh, and it's okay.
I love it. Unheard of. We're going to talk more about your successes here in a minute, but I want to go back a little bit more. What were some of the hardest? Because there's people out there again who are having some great success. It takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of grind. Was there a moment, and listen, as entrepreneurs, I know I've had them where I'm like, man, I want to throw my hands up. I'm done. Right. And then that lasts for about 2 seconds and then back into it. But what was one of the tougher moments or stories you had where you felt like everything was coming at you and you just weren't sure if you're going to make it through? Did you ever have any of those moments?
Of course I did. Of course I did, man. Early on, when we first started our business, I told my wife, I said, I want to make a goal. I want to buy our house in the first year. This was around 2005. And we started grinding, and I saved about $30,000 in the first year, and everybody was killing it. Everyone was making so much money back then on real estate. I had my friends call me and they're like, I bought a condo and made $60,000 in like 3 months. I can't touch it. And so I'm like, we got to buy a house fast. So I saved up these $30,000, and then we went to Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona. We buy this house. And I tell my wife, I'm like, listen, I can get this house remodeled in about 2 weeks and about $10,000. I'll get this thing done. Dude, like a year later and like $80,000 into it, we're still not done with this house, trying to still finish remodeling. But I ran out of money, right? Obviously, I didn't have enough money. So I had to keep going back to San Diego, grinding, working on the business. Every penny that I can take from the business, it was the handyman business, I would put back into that property. And so I would actually bring some of my employees from here to Arizona to work on this property. Dude, it was the hardest time of my life. I remember it was like 4 a.m. I mean, I'm out there myself and I'm staining the driveway. I had to I was staining, and I'm thinking to myself, man, all my neighbors probably think I'm a tweaker, man. Like, literally, because I'm like, but I had to get this thing done. I couldn't go to someone and ask for money. It was something that I had to do for myself. I mean, there's so many lessons that I learned from that. It was the toughest time of my life, man. And my first real estate deal, we didn't do too well on it, right? We didn't do too well on that house. But guess what? I learned so many things. It was the best university that I can ever go to, man. Like going through that, learning the work ethic, learning the true grind of working. Sometimes, dude, I was working there was days I was working 23 hours out of 24. Right? Like literally trying to do everything in my power to finish this, and then seeing it not succeed and ended up losing money on that house. Right? Man, I learned so much from that. And now we have a pretty good real estate portfolio, and I've never lost money on a house or a property since. Right? So you learn things, and sometimes those lessons are very hard for us as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
They're very difficult. They're gut wrenching, man, because going through it is not fun. I mean, when you're in the middle of it, it's like you're throwing your hands up and you're like, man, am I even going to make this? Like, am I going to make it through? Am I going to make it through? And then somehow, by God's grace, man, if you keep going, if you keep doing the right thing, something happens and you get a breakthrough, so.
You said it, man. You said it. You got to keep doing the right thing. I'm big, when I do training, one of the first sessions I did was on a mindset training, but I talk about breaking through these thresholds. Okay. Yes. And as long as you're intentional of doing the right things and working through it, you're going to get stronger. And believe me, me, myself, you show me any successful entrepreneur up there, and I can show you a list of mistakes they've made. And I only call them mistakes when you don't learn something from them. If you don't learn something from them, they're a mistake. But intentionally, the things that all these are experiences in my mind that we learn from. And I love the story, man.
We need a lot of money, man, to go learn what we learn on a daily, right? Just daily stuff coming at you, and we're learning, we're developing, we're getting better, and that's why. I tell these guys that sign up for a business model, I tell them, listen, you're not going to be the same person in a year.
Yeah, you shouldn't be. Yes, you should not be.
Dangerous, man. Like, you're going to be dangerous. Like, you're going to know business more. You're going to be a lot, wiser, smarter. You're gonna, so, dude, that's what I love about entrepreneurship, man. Because it opens your eyes to a whole different world.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just having this conversation yesterday about, breaking through these thresholds, and you will not be the same.
No,
You'll look back at like those thresholds you hit a year ago, and you'll be like, man, I thought that was hard at the time, but now it's like, I'll eat that for breakfast. Like, that's
that's
it. Yeah,
that's
I'll
right.
eat that for breakfast. I love it.
Like I remember like in our design remodeling when I started doing the remodels, I remember myself signing a $25,000 remodel, and I'm thinking, wow, this is big, and I'll get butterflies in my stomach and all that. And then I'm like signing a $70,000 remodel. I'm like, but like now 25 is nothing. I got to a point I'm signing a $750,000 remodel. I don't feel anything. It's just
Right.
another, and it's like, okay, it's just another one and another one and another one. Our mind is a muscle, and there is the thermostat in here, right?
I
So
love
like,
it.
and you could literally, you can adjust that thermostat, and it'll keep growing and growing and growing. But yeah, man, it's fun, dude. I love it.
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
love
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking and fun. All right, so let's talk about your success today, right? How many franchises do you have in your system at this point?
So right now we just started in November, right? So
Oh yeah, that's right. You just started your franchising.
started in
That's right.
November.
Yes.
So we have one that's closing like literally this month, and then we have two that are closing next month, and we have so much interest. But like, all these people are reaching out. They're going through the franchise masterclass that we're doing. They're talking to our finance people. So there's so
That's
much
great.
momentum happening in the background,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's great.
It's happening fast, man. And the nice thing about the model that we have is that we were able to prove it with 5 different locations, right? For several years before we actually
Even
started.
got
And
done.
every decision we were making was based on, hey, how are we going to scale this, to 300-400 locations? How is this going to work across so many different locations? So we're ready for growth, man.
That's
We're ready
great.
for growth, but we are going to have to start pumping the brakes a little bit because, we want to get it to 50 to 100 locations. And then we're going to have to stop, and we're going to have to make sure everyone has the right support, make sure everyone is
Yeah.
taken care of, everyone's humming and doing the right things, and then we're going to go to the next level and the next level. But it's important because, I have some mentors now in the franchising world that, they tell me, they're like, Sergey, be careful not to sell too many too quickly,
Yeah.
because, that it may be very, very difficult because we want to create success stories. Right, we want people to succeed and want to be sure we've given them the right infrastructure and the right support and everything that they need for that to happen.
I love it, man. I love it, man. This has been such a great interview, man. We're going to stay in touch. We have to stay in touch. I got another question for you, but we have to stay in touch. And I'd love to bring you back on down the road too, because I want to see we're talking about leveling up and scaling up and being, where you're a year ago, looking back at where you were. It'd be fun to bring you on next year and go, all right, talk to me. What's happened over the last year? And I'd love to hear it. Yeah, we should do that for sure. But all right, so what's next for you? I mean, you obviously given us a little bit of a visual about the scaling of the business, but what's next for you?
We're developing, man. We're developing other branches, other systems, right? So again, going back to my natural growth trajectory, the way that it happened, I started with the handyman. I did that for 2 to 3 years. Then I went into kitchen bath remodeling. And I see that that's exactly what's going to happen with our franchisees. Yeah. Because what they're going to do is they're going to start doing the handyman. And all of a sudden, like our East Bay location, they have over 2,000 paying customers in just 2 years. So now these customers are going to be like, hey, can you remodel my kitchen? Can you remodel my bathroom? Right? So we want to empower those franchisees to be able to do a kitchen and a bath remodel because those ticket items are much bigger. Right? So now we're going to roll out Kaminskiy Kitchen and Bath. We have Kaminskiy HVAC coming out. There's going to be different services, man, home services. Anything you think of in terms of home improvement, we want you to think Kaminskiy. Like when you think of, a hot tub, you say jacuzzi. Jacuzzi is just a brand name, right? So that's what Kaminskiy is going to be in the home.
So when I hear Kaminskiy, man, I'm thinking all those things you just mentioned right here. I love it. You've been the best guest, man.
I need to do a Kaminskiy on my kitchen. We're going to replace the word remodel, man.
Just do a Kaminskiy, man. Just do a Kaminskiy. Oh, man, I've really enjoyed our time together, brother. Listen, where can people find you if they want to connect with you? If they want to reach out? Maybe they have interest on your franchise. Maybe they just want to talk business. Where can they connect with you?
Absolutely. Personally, I'm on Instagram. I have a great following on Instagram, very active. Sergei.Kaminskiy is the Instagram channel. And then if they want to visit our website, it's going to be careandrepair.com. And then go to the franchising tab, we're offering these free franchise masterclasses as a 25-minute masterclass. You get into that, you're going to learn about franchising. You're going to learn about the challenges that entrepreneurs are facing and how Kaminskiy Care Repair is solving those challenges. So it's a great masterclass. Very, very nice.
Fantastic. I love the masterclass. I love it. Listen, man, again, thank you for being here. This has been a fantastic show. And everybody, I know I'm not even going to ask. Usually at the end, I say, hey, like this show, share the show. Whoever's listening, like this show, but you're actually giving somebody a gift by sharing this with them. This is a great show. Yeah, Sergei, great show. Listen, everybody, wealth, health, success to all of you out there. Go get a win. This is my thing. Look, I don't care how small it is today. Go get a win. Yes. I don't care how big it is. Go get a win. And then what you need to start doing is you need to start stacking wins. So everybody, go get a win out there. Sergei, again, thanks for being here. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you, David.
Unfinished Business Podcast Show with your host, David Sliman.